Hey. All right. It is Wednesday night. We're here for the Q&A like we do every single week, as long as I'm not traveling. I try to do every Monday and Wednesday night, hang out here for at least an hour and a half and answer all the questions that you guys over here on TikTok and on X and on YouTube have when it comes to digital assets, macroeconomics, mitigating taxes on your crypto, how to partner with some of the companies I manage to be able to generate returns, borrow against your digital assets, um, other professional services, any jurisdiction. Some interesting news to start off the evening. Some not so good news for Canadians. It seems as though that Caleb Brown is no longer going to be offering service to Canadians. So if you are currently Canadian and you're holding your assets at Caleb Brown, you should be receiving an email this evening or tomorrow letting you know that you have 60 days to migrate your assets off of their brokerage and you need to move them somewhere else. We will be working closely with people that are clients of ours to be able to move their assets over into institutional custody and provide a cheaper way to transact, purchase, and sell their digital assets. If that's something they're interested in, we charge 20 basis points with no spread. So we, as far as I'm aware, are the absolute cheapest way to trade digital assets inside institutional custody there at Anchorage. We provide that to our clients. Big bonus, if you're trading on Coinbase or Uphold or even Kraken, you're going to have to be charging, they're going to be charging pretty, closer to 1% between the spread and the fees that they charge. Again, we're 20 basis points. So if you don't know what a basis point is, like 50 basis points when the Fed raises 50 basis points, it's 0.5%. So 20 basis points is like 20% of 1% is what we charge on the transactions. And that's for any dollar amount. So if you wanted to buy $10,000 of XRP, or if you wanted to buy $100,000 of XRP, or you wanted to buy $1 million or sell any of those amounts as well, it's still only 20 basis points when you work with Digital Wealth Partners. So huge value add there. And again, to those that are joining us, if you are Canadian, you have 60 days to move your assets off of Caleb Brown. And again, we're working to be able to put together a solution to be able to help our clients and others that, we're using that for institutional custody. Happy to bring you over and help you out there at Digital Wealth Partners with Anchorage as the custodian. So got that news just before we hopped on here. We talked to Digital Outlook. If you guys don't know them, Dave and Judy over there, good friends of ours, great people. He's got a lot of clients, them being Canadian and then moving here to the U.S. So it's impacting them. And we do have Canadian clients as well. So I got to get in the Discord and talk to people there in the Mastermind that we have in the Canadian channel about what's going on. That's my next initiative after I get off the live here, because this did just now happen. So breaking news for you guys here on the live. So with that, we'll go ahead and hop into the questions. It's an AMA. Here for anything you got. Happy to answer any questions you have when it comes to when's the BlackRock ETF happening. Very soon. We got some news on the case just yesterday that Ripple's only going to be paying $50,000 in comparison to, or sorry, not 50,000, 50 million. It is 50 million. It's a large amount, but it's far less than the 125 million they were originally going to have to pay that they put up in escrow. That's been earning interest, by the way. And so that's what they're going to pay the SEC, and the SEC is going to go back to the judge and try to get her to drop the injunction against Ripple sales for institutional partners. So that's a big deal. And with that transpiring, we've got the Sunshine meeting tomorrow. The SEC has that every Thursday at 2 p.m. But we'll see if, this is on the docket for them to take before the judge and how quickly that can happen. But now that everything's kind of shaken out, Ripple's withdrawn their appeal. The case has ended between the two parties, and we'll see if that injunction gets removed. But with that, I do anticipate that the SEC will be approving the ETFs in short order, and I do think that BlackRock will be throwing their hat in the ring for an XRP ETF. We're seeing a lot of stable coins start to get launched. We saw Trump's financial company launch USD1. I believe that was yesterday. And then we had, I think Fidelity came out today and said that they're going to be launching a stable coin. So I think we're just at the beginning of that. We're going to see tons and tons and tons of stablecoins launched here in the U.S. By large corporations, banks, institutions, fintech companies, social media platforms. The list is going to go on and on. And we do have the stablecoin regulation there on the docket on the floor to be passed through. Our team, a portion of our team is there in DC at the summit this week. We had another trip planned that we didn't end up going to. And so that's why I'm here with you guys tonight here on Wednesday for the AMA. So with that, we'll go ahead and hop into it. Again, everything's on the table here. We got Xavier. I say, hey, Jake, thank you for all you do for little guys. Where was the $125 million escrow Ripple had to pay the SEC, and how was it yield bearing? I'm sure this had it in a money market, probably at Bank of America. We know their private banking team. I mean, you could get it pretty much anywhere. Chase, Bank of America, Citi, Goldman, almost all those places are going to have a private side, especially with that amount of money, where they're going to be able to earn somewhere between 5 and 6% on that money just sitting there in that account. So I'd expect that that's probably where they parked it. Bank of America is a strategic partner for Ripple. That's my anticipation. I don't know that to be true. That's just my best guess if I had to, use my crystal ball. But it could be, so I could be way off. So don't take my word for it. They may tell us, and then it also may not matter at all. We've got Loyan. They say, can you talk about the difference in growth and income funds? I am not a financial advisor. However, Digital Ascension Group does own Digital Wealth Partners, which is an SEC registered RIA that does provide ways to earn returns on your XRP. And we have two separate funds, as this person mentioned here. We get into in-depth in this in the Mastermind. We had Matt come in there, who's our CIO, come run it down and explain end-to-end how everything works within that. But at a high level, there's two strategies. We partner with, it's a hedge fund that we manage. And we pool capital in SPVs, which are special purpose vehicles. You're able to invest in kind using your assets. It's held there at institutional custody. And we work with those sub-advisors that have proven track records. We have two of them. One trades XRP futures. The other one is a market neutral strategy. This, trades the top 50 cryptos. Both of them have 5+ year track records of very good returns. They're not ever going to be 100% or 200% or 1,000% on your money or anything crazy. They're market neutral strategies, so we limit the downside. Like, that's the whole point. So it's never going to be crazy moon boy stuff, but they are going to be able to pay, somewhere between 12 and 30% per year. If they had a really good year, 30% on people's assets. If they have a regular year, somewhere between 12 and 20% is what we're looking at. Which is still really good, because right now there's no way to get a return on your XRP in a safe manner. And that's what we've created. We've created an institutional, regulated, like above board standard way that's completely compliant and transparent, where people can earn a return on their XRP if they partner with Digital Wealth Partners. The growth fund is the XRP futures, a little riskier. They have had 1 month in their track record where they were -8%, but they were positive on the quarter, still made 5% on the quarter. Same thing with the other fund. They have had 1 month. There's been a couple months where they were -1%, but they're always positive on the quarter. And that's how we pay the distributions there to the LPs or the clients there at Digital Wealth Partners. It's on a quarterly basis to be able to kind of smooth that out so that there's far less risk that you would be in a position where you had to lose a little bit of XRP. Number one rule for us is don't lose XRP. Number two rule is refer to rule number one. So tried to mitigate risk as much as possible for those strategies. There's always some risk when you're earning returns on assets. You're never going to be able to get rid of all of it. If it was yield and it was treasuries at 5 or 6%, sure. Yeah. Now there's no risk, right? So, but that's why it's 5 or 6% and it's not 12 to 20. On a curve, a risk curve of 1 being no risk, 10 being extremely risky, FTX risky, we're at like a 1.5 to 2 would be where I would say the risk is on this. It's very low, but there is some risk associated with it. So most of our clients are not putting all of their XRP in it. They want to dip their toe in, see what type of returns they get over the next quarter here. We are calling funds on April 1. So people will be earning returns on their XRP starting April 1 if they are a client of Digital Wealth Partners and participating in the funds. Blown away that we're actually in a position to be able to do that for people. I've been working for years, literally years at this point, to be able to partner with people inside of institutional custody and structure it in a way where you could borrow against your XRP and earn a return on your XRP, either cash or in kind. And we finally have all of that in place, and it will be starting April 1st. So super excited for our clients over there. Hopefully you're one of them, Loyan. And yeah, if you want to learn more about that, if that interests you, there are some pre-qualifications. In order to be a client of Digital Wealth Partners, you need at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in invested in digital assets. So it could be XRP, XLM, HBAR. You don't have to move everything over, but you need at least $500,000 invested. We will have XLM available for custody here in the next 6 days. So again, by April 1st, you will be able to custody with us XRP, XLM, Bitcoin, Solana, Matic, Chainlink, Graph, and a bunch of other EVM type stuff. And we can earn returns on any of it. That's the other beauty of this fund is we're agnostic. You can put up any asset and be able to generate returns in a very risk mitigated manner. The credit line that they trade against these assets just goes up and down. It fluctuates based on the value of the assets that are in the account. There's no capital call. They stay in our wallet the whole time. They're never rehypothecated or at risk in somebody else's ownership. Really just super proud of my team and what they've been able to put together, because this has not all been me. This is strategic partnerships and people that we've brought on that have been able to orchestrate this. And really, really excited to be able to get it to market. So again, if that's something you're interested in, you just reach out. digitalwealthpartners.net is the website. You can go to the contact us page there. And yeah, if you want to learn more or have, deeper questions, which I'm sure people do. And again, I'm just at a high level here, giving you a 30,000 foot view of this. If you want the nitty gritty, they can break it down for you there with the advisors that have the licenses to be able to give you that financial advice. They also asked, can a main LLC have a backup LLC in another country? Yes, it can. I'm thinking about if there's war or catastrophe event in the LLC country. Yeah, for sure. So we see this often for trusts. We work with Rampart, and they help us orchestrate Cook Island trusts for our clients, or trust in Switzerland, LLCs in Nevis. They have partners in Dubai. The only jurisdiction that we still don't have like a really good partner in is Singapore, and we're working on that. But we can pretty much establish LLCs globally, or whatever. It's an LTD in the UK. It's a limited company. Depending on what jurisdiction it is, that goes by a different name, and not all of them are pass-through entities. If you're Canadian, Canada doesn't even recognize an LLC. Basically look at it like a C Corp. So anyway, yes, you absolutely can have a backup entity. You would need officers or some way to transfer the assets from one entity to the other, and that's why trusts work so well for that. LLCs would be a bit more difficult to be able to transfer the assets. You'd need some type of agreement where you'd probably want the assets in the offshore company, and then have them being leased or loaned to the corporation that's managing them to generate a return. And then if something happened in the country that is the risky one, the assets are actually owned by the company that's offshore or in the other jurisdiction, and just being leased to the corporation that's using them to provide returns or services on them, is probably the way that I would structure that. Similar to like if you owned a lawn care business, you'd have one corporation that owned all of the trucks, the trailers, all of the assets you use to do the lawn care, and it would lease it to the service company that was doing the lawn care. That way, if something bad happened and somebody sued the service company, there's no assets there for them to take. And that was something my business law professor taught me. One of the few things I learned in college that was actually useful. Thank you, Jacob, for the super chat here. He says, You seem close as 100% that XRP hits 3 to 4 digits this year. Yes. Don't you and your business stand to lose a lot of reputation and customers should this not pan out? Are you that confident? Love your insights. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm extremely confident. Like the reverse carry trade, and even if the reverse carry trade doesn't transpire, I mean, we have bipartisan approval here for crypto regulation in the U.S. We're going to get that here in 2025, according to Trump. You've got the strategic stockpile. The case for Ripple and XRP is ended. You're going to see institutional adoption by Swift likely because they have the full rollout of ISO 20022 standardization this year. There's just a ton of things that are going to happen here in 2025 that indicate to me that we are absolutely going to see 3 or 4 digits for XRP. In my opinion, again, dependent on certain catalysts happening, but I'm highly confident that those will happen here in 2025. So yeah, for sure. You know, it's a reputation deal, but I'm willing to put my neck on the line for it. And if I'm wrong, I'll say I was wrong. You know, that's happened in the past. I thought Bitcoin would stop at 75K. I was wrong. It went to 108 or 109, wherever it went. Happy for that because we have clients that own a lot of Bitcoin and made a lot of money. You know, this one I wouldn't be so happy about if that didn't happen this year. We definitely have. I have bet pretty much all I could on XRP being successful. I've built my entire business model around it, and we want to provide all the products and services possible for people that do hit it big with XRP when that happens. And we've already built out the roadmap for that and have the partners to be able to facilitate it. And have been working on that for years at this point to be able to do it. So again, yes, I am that confident, and I appreciate you asking the question and your super chat. We have MLabs. They say, hey, Jake, if Japan has approved USDC, what is preventing them from just getting this party started? Rates likely to continue to go up in Japan. Why must stablecoin legislation be passed if USDC is used? There's two separate topics here. So stablecoin regulation here in the US is very different than stablecoin regulation there in Japan. Because of the US treasuries in that component, because cash and cash equivalents would be required to back the stablecoins issued here in the US. That's what allows, you know, the demand to rise enough to be able to soak up that international debt that'll be dumped on the market when the reverse carry trade unwinds. So they could use USDC, but it's not going to solve any of Japan's problems. They need to raise interest rates. They're going to have to in order to stop inflation and keep things from crumbling in their economy. They need to raise interest rates. They can't keep doing yield curve control like they have been, printing more currency to buy back the bonds. That only works for a little while, and they've pretty much lost control at this point. We're almost at 1.6 on the 10-year yield. And I think that that's going to move much higher, much faster. And that's when you're going to see things get really ugly in global markets. And you're also going to see XRP, the God candle that everybody's been hoping for. I think that's when that's going to happen. And maybe there's just a shutdown. You can't look at exchanges. You know, there's no price feed. Coin market cap shuts down. But on the other side of whatever blackout or like thing happens where there's limit down across all the markets and all the craziness happens, when everything opens back up, XRP's at 4 digits, 3-4 digits. That's the way I anticipated to go down. We got Katie Girl. Hey, how are you, ma'am? She says, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Hope you and Matt are doing well. Why are there are two stablecoin bills? What are the differences? Do we need both to pass or just one? Timelines, deadlines on these passing? Don't know. I need to look at it. I wouldn't be able to give you an educated answer on this because I haven't reviewed both pieces of legislation in depth in order to be able to tell you the differences. I'm just excited that we're going to have stablecoin regulation. Hopefully, I know at least one of those bills has a provision for a bridge currency, and that's where the definition meets XRP and would give it legal clarity here in the US. This new bill, if there is a second one, maybe it's just an iteration of the first one. I don't know. Again, I'm not aware of a second one, but if there is, I would need to review it to be able to give you like a real answer. Timelines, Trump said that they would be passed by August. in his crypto summit last week. So I'm going to believe that. I mean, he's the commander in chief and probably knows what's going on from his direct reports. So if you wanted a timeline or deadline, that's probably it. I think it happens sooner than that, especially if the reverse carry trade unwinds. They'll need to. They will have to. So let me get back to you on it, I guess is my answer. I need to review if there is a second one that's been issued and the differences between the first one and the second one, or maybe if there's iterations that have been made to the first one, probably need to brush up on it because, that first iteration is what I'm used to. MLabs 92 says, how does someone become an accredited investor? Can earnings from an S Corp contribute to their net worth needs to meet the qualifications? So an S Corp is a pass-through entity. You and your spouse, if you're married, would need to have tax returns that show that you made at least $300,000 for the past 2 years. Or if you're single, $200,000 for the past 2 years. Or you need to have at least $1 million worth of net worth outside of provable net worth outside of your primary residence. So you can't include the equity in your house. And then the final way that you can be accredited here in the U.S. is to pass your Series 65, and you can hang that with an advisor and be able to qualify and participate in that capacity. Those are the 3 ways here in the U.S. that you can become accredited or qualify as accredited. We have Katie Girl asked that one. James, how are you, sir? Would you be so kind as to answer those few chats above? Absolutely. Let's see here. Accredited. We'll hop into these other 2. Please state what Ripple is and XRP is, what XRP can be used for, and how it can be used. How will the price of XRP appreciate? I want to tag this video for a few folks. I know this live will be fire. Thank you. All right. A lot of questions, but we'll try to tackle them all here. And I'm sure my team will be able to chop this up for shorts. So we'll jump into it. So we'll do the first one first, and then we'll work our way through them. Please state what Ripple is and what XRP is. So Ripple is a corporation that creates products for payment solutions and other financial products for banks and institutions. And they leverage the XRPL and XRP to be able to facilitate those transactions and provide value inside the software that they sell to institutions and enterprises and other people they partner with or that use their services. They also acquired Medico, which is a custody software. It itself does not have the licenses to provide custody, but it is a framework or software that institutions that are licensed can use to hold digital assets or stable coins or provide tokenized banking services for their clients. They also made an acquisition of Standard Custody from PolySign last year, which is a trust bank, a federally chartered trust bank here in the U.S. That has the licenses to operate in New York, which is a big deal. Anchorage just got their license to operate in New York, and we can work with New York clients as of next week, which is awesome. It's a BIT license that's required there, and the NYDFS is very stringent. So those are some of the acquisitions that Ripple has made. Ripple has made other strategic investments across the board in multiple fintech companies like Reclosure and Zonix and some other companies over the last year for tokenized real world assets. So that's Ripple. Ripple is a company. It has a CEO. It has people that work there. They sell products, and they use XRP and the XRPL. And they control the escrow for XRP also, kind of as a treasury mechanism to be able to maintain price stability, to be able to facilitate payments and trial things to make sure that they're going to get the adoption and also fund their business. Backstory on how they got the XRP, I guess, would be reasonable for this conversation. So XRP was created June 2nd of 2012, excuse me. So June 2nd, 2012 was when 100 billion XNS is what they were named at the time, were minted. And then the founders, the creators of XNS, Arthur Brito, David Schwartz, Jed McCaleb, and I believe there was one more that was on the original 4 that worked on XRP and the XRPL. They took 20% of the XRP for themselves, and they gifted the other 80% of the XRP that was trading at sub pennies at the time, 3/100ths of a penny or less, to Ripple. And then Ripple's been able to use that for the business activities. In 2017, they locked up half of the supply of XRP in an escrow, which releases 1 billion XRP each month, either on stipulations or on a time lock cadence, which they then use to sell onto the market to fund their business, or re-escrow whatever portion they don't need back at the end of the escrow. So that's been every month since, like, I don't remember when the first month was, but I think it was mid 2017 when they did that. And that was what caused a supply shock and the price of XRP to rise from sub pennies to eventually $3.84 on January 4th of 2018. So backstory, Ripple, that piece. XRP. XRP is the native currency that lives on the XRPL, on the protocol. It is what moves value on the XRPL from one party to another. So if I want to send you a payment, I swap out of whatever I want, USD into XRP. I send you the money. It lands there in 2 to 4 seconds. Costs me pennies to send millions of dollars to you. You sell out into whatever you want, because XRP has so many different pairs that it's already paired with. The X on the front end states that it's not owned by a nation state. If you look at any of the commodities that are traded, you have XAU for gold. Anything with X on the front end shows that it's not owned by a specific state or government or anybody on the world. It is a neutral asset that can be traded. In 2014, the IMF wrote a paper that talked about an exchange rate peg. When XNS, which is what XRP originally was gifted to Ripple, they rebranded it Ripples. And so that's what's been synonymous with XRP for a long time, and why people have a hard time delineating between the company and the token. But in 2014, they rebranded the Ripples token to XRP, which again came out like right after the IMF dropped that paper talking about an exchange rate peg using the abbreviation XRP. And then, obviously, excuse me, I need some tea. XRP went on to continue with that name. And in 2017, Ripple met with the IMF, and there's documented photos and evidence of that meeting as well, when Christine Lagarde was there before she became the head of the ECB, and then Christina Georgieva stepped in as the head of the IMF. So XRP is a neutral bridge asset that allows people to send money globally in seconds, even into space, like in Ripple's commercials. Maybe to Mars one day if Elon gets his way. But it provides institutional players a way to be able to settle transactions globally between, cross-border remittance is kind of the first application where XRP has seen the most traction. SWIFT currently handles, $5 trillion plus dollars worth of daily volume. And XRP could be used alongside their messaging system, which, Ripple's created a product, which is RippleNet, which could use XRP to settle alongside the messaging that they've created that's ISO 20022 compliant. And what would cause the appreciation? So we've been over what is Ripple, kind of gave you a backstory on that. What is XRP, history, and what it is. There's a few other things about the protocol and the ledger that are unique. So again, XRP is just the token that moves value on the XRPL. The XRPL is a DEX that routes orders to the least amount of resistance, and most often goes through XRP when there's enough liquidity in it. It will choose that route versus routing it some other way. It has automated market makers built into the network. Digital identity is built native to the network. Price oracles, credentials are another amendment that will allow for KYC, KYB, AML accreditation. All of the things you would need to be able to participate in financial products is going to be native to the XRPL with a digital identity component. Smart contracts are on side chains on the XRPL, which allow for governance and like efficiency between counterparties and transactions for escrow, release of an escrow. Escrow is native to the XRPL. Clawback is an amendment for issued assets. The other thing about XRP that's interesting that I didn't mention earlier is it cannot be frozen and it cannot be taken back. So if you send a payment in XRP, bye-bye. It's gone. It's to the counterparty. The only way that you can keep from receiving XRP from somebody else is to blacklist a wallet. You can also issue a trust line with somebody else if you trust them to be able to transact with your wallet or send you something. There are payment channels and a lot of other functionality that's native to the XRPL that will allow it to scale. Currently, it can handle up to 1,500 TPS or transactions per second. Visa and MasterCard send about 30,000 transactions per second. So you need payment channels, or you need a subnet that's implicit or explicit to the XRPL to allow it to scale to the amount of transactions that would be required for institutional adoption. I think they're working on that. But there's a lot of things that have been built in native to the protocol, which is where the value really is for institutions. The token and the value of that will just be a byproduct of people starting to use the protocol to move large value payments at scale for certain markets. So like Swift, like the FX market, like commodities trading, like the settlement of the back end of the stock market, cross-border payments, Nostro Vostro accounts. There's a lot of these applications. You cannot claw back XRP. You can claw back issued assets. So if somebody issues a stable coin on the XRPL, which you would need to do this, right? Like you want to be, if you sent it to the wrong party, you need to be able to pull that back if you're a bank, because that does happen. Excuse me. People make mistakes. And so you need the capability to, whoever the issuer of the asset is, they can claw that back. So this person's asked, when the heck is XRP going to move? Don't worry about price. I know everybody's here for that. It's going to happen, and you're going to be richer than you've ever thought possible when it does. And most people are going to sell out and sell the golden goose, because XRP is going to have DeFi and other things built into it, like liquidity pools and borrow lend and all the other stuff that Ripple's working on for institutional DeFi that's going to allow people to earn gobs of money for the next hundreds of years. And we're doing a workaround. Like we've piecemealed and worked a solution right now to be able to provide people returns on their XRP through the funds that we have that we talked about a little bit earlier on this. But we are going to integrate DeFi with Anchorage. We're working on integrating the XRPL and that functionality now, talking to Hugo and for Flare and a lot of that stuff as well. So we will be on the forefront of that and be able to provide advice on which DeFi protocol to use, and be able to do that out of institutional custody for people that are clients that hold XRP with us. So this has been a really long one. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and, kind of taking this in. So last but not least here, for sure not least, how would we see the price appreciation, which everybody's asking about over here on TikTok? You need two things. You need a supply shock, which is what we saw in 2017 when they locked up half the supply. We had a supply shock. There wasn't as much on exchanges. There was high demand. You saw the price go up. There was volume. There's purchasing. There's trading of XRP. It's moving across the network. That's what causes price appreciation for XRP. The more transactions move over the network, the more liquidity has to be in XRP to be able to settle those transactions. But those transactions can't even move across the network until there's enough liquidity in XRP to be able to start settling those. So the way that the price appreciation, is going to happen is that we need the ETFs. That'll be institutional capital that will move into the market in a tsunami, along with illiquid exchanges when Tether goes bad from the stablecoin regulation and the sanctions that I think will be imposed on Tether. Everybody will need XRP all at one time. And when that happens, there will be a supply shock for XRP, because there's only about 1 billion XRP left on the exchanges for people to purchase. Retail might hold 1.5 billion in aggregate total across all of retail holders, maybe 2 billion. We'll be generous with it, but I think it's less than that. Some of those people will sell. But so let's say there's another 500 million that flows onto the exchanges from retail selling. So now we got 1.5 billion. That's like $3 billion, $4 billion. Institutions have way more capital than that. And especially if they're having to buy 20, 30, 50 XRP per share of the ETF to back it, you're going to see wild amounts of demand all at one time, because we're going to have somewhere around 20 ETFs all go live at the same time for XRP. So that will push the price to, let's just say it goes to $50 or $100. Golly. Now there's enough liquidity in XRP to start settling some of these transactions. Swift in particular could start using XRP to settle transactions at that point, partnering with Ripple or partnering with R3 to do it. And now you have consistent volume over the network that would hold the price at that high price once the volume and the supply shock has happened to drive it there. I know a lot of people anticipate it going up and then coming back down like we've seen in every other cycle, but I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think you're going to see price go up and then maybe sideways for a little bit and then go up again and then sideways. And it's just going to become a very stable high price over the long term, somewhere between 4 and 5 digits in 2025 to 2026. So that's how it happens. We have the ETFs go live. You have the reverse carry trade unwind. You have a liquidity crisis across the back end of the stock market and exchanges all at the same time. There's chaos and they need a solution. And they've already built it out in the background to be able to use XRP. They just need to drive enough liquidity into it to make it happen. So hopefully that answers your question, James. I know that was really long and probably boring for some people, but again, good clips for us, and I appreciate the question. And hopefully the people that you share this with will get some value from it. He's also asked, could you speak to USD1 and how it will affect the economy? Will it essentially be competition for RLUSD? You're going to have hundreds of stable coins that get issued on the other side and previous to this bill being passed. Every large corporation will hold their treasury in their own stablecoin. Anybody that's holding large amounts of U.S. treasuries, Warren Buffett, I bet you, issues a stablecoin. He's got $334 billion sitting in treasuries. Uncle Warren is the lender of last resort. We saw all of the regional banks fly into Omaha, Nebraska. Is it Omaha? I think it's Omaha. when we saw SVB and Silvergate and all those other banks go down, and Uncle Warren made some investments in those regional banks that weekend, and now they're on his balance sheet. So I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see Google, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Android, Apple, anybody, Starbucks, McDonald's. I think all of these players will issue stable coins, and you'll get rewards for holding them and using them, similar to like credit card points. There'll be all kinds of stuff that you get on stable coins for holding them with different people. And they'll be able to buy U.S. treasuries and back them and issue those. And as people bring cash into their business, be able to issue more stable coins. They'll have a treasury and they'll pay a yield on it. And there'll be all kinds of cool stuff. And they will all compete with one another. But the winners will be Google and Apple and Android. I can almost, and maybe Amazon, can almost guarantee you, because everybody has an iPhone and everybody has an Android. Those are the two phones that everyone has. Maybe you got a Google phone. Maybe you got an X phone. Maybe Elon comes out with his phone. But for the majority, you've got an Apple Wallet on your phone. You've got a Google Wallet on your phone. And if they provided banking services that generated 5% on your money to just hold your money in that wallet on your phone, people are going to do that, especially if you can spend it right off your phone. You've already seen a huge amount of adoption of people with contactless payments since 2020. And I think you're just going to continue to see that revolution unfold. And I think stable coins are going to be an integral part of that as it moves forward. Cashing will continue to lose traction and be used less and less in the economy. I don't think it's going anywhere. But with stable coins and with instant settlement, you asked the effect on the economy. So I'll speak to that specifically. the velocity of money is going to pick up in ways that people cannot comprehend right now. The analogy I use for this is postal versus email. You used to have to buy stamps to send a message to somebody across the country, and now you can do it in a text message in seconds, or 1 second. You can do it in an email in 1 second. Imagine how many letters people used to send per week. If you were a letter sending son of a gun, I bet you were sending 20 letters a week, to different people. How many emails do you get per day? Hundreds. How many texts do you get per day? Hundreds. So when you remove the frictions and make it easy for something to happen, people use it more because it doesn't cost anything and it's free, right? So it'll be the same way with sending money. It'll be the same way with streaming payments. It'll be the same way with paying people by the day instead of by the week or bi-weekly. Money will move through the economy at such a faster rate. That alone will stimulate economic growth. We will see a jump in GDP just from the velocity of money and how fast it picks up. They'll have to reduce into money supply very quickly when that happens, because otherwise we're going to see ridiculous amounts of inflation, because that's the equation. You have M2 money, and then you have the velocity of money and how quickly it's changing hands across an economy. So, great questions, James. I appreciate you and your insights and being part of the mastermind there in Carbon 2 with us. Excited to provide ways where non-accredited investors can generate returns on their XRP in the very near future. But I think a lot of people, people are like price over here on TikTok. I think you're going to get your price in the very near future. I don't think you're going to have to wait a whole lot longer. XRP is going back to $1, bro. Tex-Mex, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you, sir. I think we're going close. I think we'll be at 3 digits before we're back at $1. All right. Go ahead and hop into. He says one more thing. He said, that's the one he had. Thank you again for the super chat, James. We got Off the Grid Hero. He says, what price will you stop buying XRP? Is 100K possible within the next 10 years? I don't think you'll be able to buy XRP. After $50, I don't think retail will even have access to XRP. I think it'll only be through structured products like the DR that we've created at Digital Wealth Partners in partnership with RDC. You might be able to redeem XRP through that in kind. But the ETFs, you have to be a qualified purchaser or an accredited investor just to get access to that. But the ETFs and the trusts are going to be the main way that people get exposure to this stuff in the future. Most of the exchanges will get acquired by institutional players in the next 24 to 36 months. And I don't think after the supply shock for the ETFs happens, I don't think that retail is going to be willing to sell their XRP, especially if they're partnered with us. Why would you? You could earn returns and borrow against it and set it up in PPLI and do all the cool stuff that the really wealthy people do with it. You're not going to need to sell it. You can just hold on to it for your family for the next 100 years and make sure that they stay wealthy. So, after the initial sell-off, I really don't think there's going to be much XRP to be purchased unless it's a private deal with somebody that wants to sell it for whatever reason that needs liquidity. I do think that they're probably going to move where you don't have capital gains on it, and that will incentivize people to sell a portion of their digital assets back onto the market. But on the other side of the next, 3-4 months here, I don't think retail will even be able to purchase XRP. But to answer your question specifically, I would buy XRP all the way up to $50 a piece for sure. And I think you'll have the capability to do that. And on the other side of about $50 to $500, you probably won't even be able to purchase XRP. I always forget to say this. Appreciate you. Angus, he says, smash the like button. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. If you are enjoying this content, if you think it is valuable, please smash the like button, hit the subscribe, share this with somebody that you think would enjoy the context as well. Sell your bags and quit listening to these grifters. XRP in 3 years. I met with Ripple twice this week. Okay, we have calls with them. We talked to R3. We talked to the investment banks. We've got a meeting with BlackRock in the near future. these people that are on the internet that are telling you that we're grifters, I would love to get paid by Ripple. If you could tell me how to get paid by Ripple to shill XRP, please let me know, because that's never happened. They've never offered. I've never offered. That would be great, but it doesn't exist. So anybody that says that is probably be getting paid by the Bitcoin maxis to say such things. Anyway, look, I talk to these people on a regular basis. We do business with them. We're going to have people sponsor our event here in April for family offices that deal with this technology on a regular basis. We're going to have T's Crypto Spot there on the technical panel talking about all this stuff. We work with institutional custodians. I've talked to every one of them. We've talked to Hex Trust. I've talked to Zonix. We've talked to Komainu. We've talked to Archax, Gemini, Coinbase. The list goes on. I mean, we've talked to all these institutional players. R3 Quarter associated with XDC. Yes, they are. They can settle through XDC if it has legal clarity and enough liquidity in it, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think XRP is going to be the main settlement mechanism for Corda. Again, based on conversations we've had with them. Like, other people read stuff on the internet and they think they're cool and that they know. You don't know. You haven't talked to the companies. You don't know these people. I've got cell phone numbers for people. Like, anyway, I'm on my soapbox here. It's just frustrating sometimes. So anyway, we'll hop on to the next question. Off the Grid Hero says, thoughts on Monero crypto and gaming crypto industry? I think there's going to be another big rise in that. DApps and gaming is a huge industry. Gaming in particular is a huge industry. To get the adoption for Fortnite and for a lot of these others to tokenize their infrastructure and allow for the transfer of value between one another, it's going to be a rough go. They don't want that value to leave their ecosystem. They don't think about the value that would move into their ecosystem or making money on all those transactions and the volume there. They're only thinking about the loss that they would see for money flowing out of World of Warcraft, or, like, I spent a lot of time as a child playing video games and then would have to start completely over on the next one. If you were able to transfer value from one video game to the next and continue to build on that over time and exchange it for cash at any point, like, that's a completely different economy. So I think that there's a huge opportunity in gaming for crypto. Gala, it's a big player there. I think they're for sure the leader. When you talk about privacy coins, pretty much all of them have a backdoor at this point. The only one that I'm aware of that doesn't have a backdoor is a Left Zero. So if you really do want, anonymous transactions, they're one of their founders sits on our board of a company that we run. And they do not have a backdoor for the NSA or the FBI or any of the three-letter agencies, even though that they have asked multiple times. They're the only one that I'm aware of that doesn't have a backdoor. Even Monero at this point, I think, would comply with federal regulators or a subpoena if they were required to. So, privacy coins are, anonymous payments that move on a public network. It's not going to happen. If you want an anonymous payment, it needs to be in cash or gold. That's just the reality of the situation. So, appreciate the super chat. We've got Shade Spot with another super chat. Thank you so much. He said, you've sat down with many in the know, people who didn't answer certain questions, NDAs. Can you please tell a few stories of certain interactions that hugely increased your confidence in XRP as the one? Conversations with three-letter agencies that reached out to me. I know that the majority of the content that I put out and conversations that we have in the Mastermind are recorded by three-letter agencies because they've been played back to other people, and they have verified that for me. Why would they be doing that if XRP wasn't involved in things? All MasterCard, the conversation with them was very interesting. R3 conversations with them have been very interesting. Ripple, obviously, we've been to Swell 2 years in a row. other banks and institutions at a very high level, people that have seen certain transactions and things being trialed on the back end, that were privy to that information, some of which are friends of mine. So just, yeah, I had a lot of confidence. I woke up every day for a year and a half trying to figure out how I was wrong. And then I was like, okay, I can't figure it out. I don't feel like I'm stupid. I don't think I'm the smartest person on the planet. I think I have good critical thinking skills, and really kind of trying to work through how I was wrong about XRP. I could answer all the questions and like, okay, well, that's why they would still use it even in this circumstance. Why not just a stable coin? Because they don't trust one another and they don't want to hold a counterparty's currency. They need a bridge asset to be able to swap that value, right? They need a DEX. They need a market maker. They need, it's compliant software that allows for streamlined transactions between untrusted counterparties that want to settle in different assets. Like, you need a bridge asset. And I couldn't find another one that I felt had a compelling enough use case, and like the traction that Ripple has and R3 has and other people that are developing on the XRPL and using it for that application have such a large headway at this point. I mean, it's the second cryptocurrency ever created after Bitcoin. Just anyway, so there's, like, I could go on and on and on. My wife is tired of listening to me talk about it. But yeah, those are just some of the interactions I've had with certain counterparties that, talked with Simon at Uphold. There's just been, Graham at Archax. Like, there's been a lot of people I've sat down and had some drinks with. Nice, cool people that are involved with this and its success, and highly believe that it will be successful. So I'm hoping to have Graham on the podcast on Friday, which will be great. So anyway, yeah, it's a great question. I'm not going to get into like specifics about those conversations, but those are the counterparties that I've interacted with to give me the confidence to come on here and state things that I do. And I'll say this one too, like, so the domino theory, when I put that out, I had certain people that would know reach out to me and be like, on to something there, guy. So anyway, just a lot of that. And we talk about, a little bit more intimate than what I can discuss publicly here in the Mastermind. If you're interested in some of those stories and some of that information, we do talk about it on the town halls on Mondays and Saturdays, and especially in the Carbon 2 group. It's a lot more intimate. It's not recorded, but more candid there than I can be here. So if that interests you, would love to have you in the Mastermind. The code there for a free month in any one of those tiers, Social, Carbon 1, or Carbon 2, is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, or like Mary Oscar or month, gets you a free month there in the group. We've had a lot of people sign up over the last 2 days. Almost 50 people have signed up in the last 24 hours here, which is awesome. We've got like 1,500 people there in the group. So to continue to see it grow at this rate has just been, feel super blessed and grateful, to be honest with you. We have Stavy. They say, thank you for the super chat, by the way. I'm sorry I butchered your name. What's your perspective on the concept of a currency reset or revaluation? Do you believe in this as something currently taking place? Thanks. I hope so. I have a lot of clients that hold a lot of Dong and Dinar and Zim. A lot of Dong, man. Anyway, they hold those things, and they do anticipate some type of revaluation for those currencies. I'm not quite as convinced on that. In the past, when currencies have been revalued, there's been like a ratio. So they'll issue a new currency, and then there'll be an amount of the old currency that you can trade for the new currency that has the new value. They normally don't just revalue the current notes that are out there. Maybe that's what takes place this time. A lot of people think that about the dinar. That's what's been spouted by a lot of people that run currency exchange trading desks that want people to buy dinar and they profit off of the transaction. I don't. So I can give you a candid answer, and my answer is I don't think so. I think there'll be a new currency that's issued, and you'll be able to trade the old currency in whatever ratio they revalue it to the new currency, and that's how that will work. But again, I would love to be wrong, because a lot of my clients will make a lot of money if I'm wrong. We'll scroll on down here and catch a few more of these super chats, and then we'll catch a couple over here on TikTok. We got KJ. They say, do you know how much the Corporate Transparency Act, if it compromises our privacy when owning an LLC? So there was a case that was here in Texas that settled, and the U.S. Treasury said that they would not be enforcing any fines or requiring anybody to file with FinCEN for the Corporate Transparency Act or the BOIR. So you do not need to file it. We did stay in compliance this last year with LLCs that we filed. We made sure that we filed the BOIR for those people within the 90-day period that was required. If you filed a company prior to 2024, you did not need to do that filing until 2025. And by that time, they pushed the date, and then they removed it. So most people that set up companies with us in 2023, we did not file for unless we were requested to. And then again, we just maintained compliance in 2024 as we were filing LLCs for people with that. Don't think it's an issue. It's just on FinCEN. They just want to know, like, who's behind the corporation in case you are a bad actor. But they can get that information anyway. All you got to do is, subpoena some stuff. So we do provide nominee services and trustee services and other ways to maintain anonymity on your LLC if that's something you're interested in, where they sign corporate documents and other things on your behalf and have that agreement with you. It's very simple and low cost to get those services if that's something you're interested in. There are ways to really be a ghost on your LLC if you want to be. So now that the Corporate Transparency Act is not requiring that, we won't be filing that for our clients. I don't think it's in your interest to do so. Even though it's not that big a deal, I don't think it causes a problem. It's just one less thing that is required for us to do and could be an issue later on, which again, I don't think it will be, but you never know. Jeremy Sides, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, Jake, is it possible that the 17 companies who have submitted ETFs are part of the 1,700 companies Ripple has NDAs with? Thus not needing exchanges for XRP. You're the best. Thank you. Yeah, some of the larger investment banks that have filed ETFs, like Franklin Templeton, sure. Canary Capital, no. Canary Capital is a new company. They would have needed to purchase the XRP that's going to back their ETF. I'd say it's probably 50-50. 21 shares, Bitwise. There's a lot of these companies that have popped up in the last 3-4 years here that wouldn't have been a part of Ripple's original, 1,700 NDAs that they signed. So, and I think that's the volume you've seen to push and hold XRP to the prices that it has been, and not let it drop back down. Like we've seen a lot of other cryptos fall pretty substantially, and XRP's held up really well. And I think that's the volume that is coming from these companies doing TWAP and VWAP to acquire the XRP and hold price stability here at around 240. So they definitely could be, and they could hold more XRP through the NDAs and the pre-negotiated contracts that Ripple has with them. I think that Ripple will, again, get the injunction dropped by the SEC and the judge and likely be able to sell to institutions again, which would be great. And then, that XRP is not going to be flowing onto the retail market every month when the escrow opens up. It'll just be going to institutions and enterprises. None of it will make it to retail. So again, it kind of goes along with my thesis that in the very near future, retail will not be able to purchase XRP. The only way you would be able to get exposure is through structured products, ETFs, trusts, and depository receipts. Let's see here. Throw this up here. We talked about the Mastermind a little bit earlier, but if it is something that interests you, there is the code right there, because sometimes it's confusing when I say it. But you're going to go to beyondbroke.com, and then you could check out, any one of the Carbon's memberships or social memberships, $25 a month. But if you want to try it out for free, see if it's for you, there's the codes: beyondbroke1 MO, all capitalized, get you a free month there in the group. On the other side of price appreciation, we're going to lock it down. Anybody that's in is in. You get all the prices that currently exist. If you want to go up, the prices stay the same. For anybody that comes in post $10 XRP, we will be much more stringent about who is allowed to participate in the community, and prices will be 10 times the amount that they are today. So if you want to get in now and make sure that you're locked in on that, we would love to have you. Just go ahead and head over to the website and get in. And I trust people on here. People that are watching this, there's 1,000 people here on YouTube. We've got 200 people over here on TikTok, and probably some more on X there, maybe 500-600 on X. You guys are my community. If you're watching this, we trust you guys. We'll pull you into the group. But anybody on the other side of price appreciation, we're going to be extremely diligent about the due diligence we do on people before they're allowed to enter the community, and it's going to cost them a lot more money. We have Jesus Lover. Very cool. I like your name. They say clients of DWP can earn income with 50K XRP. Yes. Yep. We can put that in the fund, and you can earn somewhere between 12 and 20% is our projected returns for people based on previous performance in the funds. Previous performance does not guarantee future performance. There are no guarantees, but that's the anticipated returns for our clients on their XRP. And we can do in cash or in kind, however you want it. I didn't mention this earlier, but Living Legacy is posted up here. One of the prerequisites to work with Digital Wealth Partners is that you have to hold your assets inside of a corporation. So to be able to do that, we do provide that service. You can go out and get it on your own. You're more than welcome to. We recommend Wyoming for 3 reasons. One, there's no state tax in Wyoming. 2, you get attorney-client privilege. So you're more anonymous there in Wyoming than you would be in most other states. And then lastly is the regulation there in Wyoming is the most beneficial for digital assets at this time. So that's where we file all the LLCs. We provide you the operating agreement, the EIN number, the articles of organization, the registered agent, certificate of good standing, how to set up a bank account, and the SOP or standard operating procedure for how you move all of your digital assets or a portion into the LLC without much friction at all. You don't have to send a transaction or buy another ledger. You just, list them on the capital contributions page there that we draft for you. So that template by itself is probably, I know it's worth $2,500 at any other attorney. We get all this done for you for $1,500 all in if you use the code 50 off DAG LLC there on the website at digitalfamilyoffice.io. So I've got to do my TikTok little puzzle here. So yeah, we'd love to work with you guys if that's something that you're interested in as well. We've got Daniel Kime. He says, hey, brother, when will DWP funds be available without moving assets out of Anchorage? Next quarter. Yeah. Not my choice. They just don't quite have the functionality built in the integrations, but we're working on that. We're pushing them for it. But late in Q2, we will be able to hold assets there at Anchorage, and they won't be moved to Cefu or another custodian. We still own those wallets. They're still insured, but it is not at Anchorage there. And it's not my favorite. We're also working on integrations with Coinbase. One of our sub-advisors is onboarding with them, so we'll be able to hold it at Coinbase or Anchorage by the end of Q2 for both of the funds. And basically any of the other products that we bring to market will be held there. We just want to get these to market and be able to help people. We have a lot of demand for it. And transparently, we charge fees to be able to custody assets. And I feel bad charging people fees and not providing them some way to be able to generate enough income on the assets to pay those. It shouldn't be a detriment or a cost to hold your assets in institutional custody. You know what I mean? Obviously you get a lot of benefits along with that, and you get the advisorship, and you get the insurance, and you get to list your spouse on there, and you get to list beneficiaries, and there's a lot of good that comes along with it. But I just have a hard time justifying some of the costs that we have for people on their assets every single month when we don't have a way to be able to generate returns on it. So we wanted to get these to market and make sure people had at least some way to make money, cover all of our fees for sure, and have excess every single quarter from their assets, and we're first to market with it. Like there's not really any other secure way that you can earn returns on your XRP. We're it. When DeFi comes along and there's other ways, we will integrate those into our offerings. We're working with Hugo at Flare. We're working with Ripple. Had a call with them Monday to figure out what that's going to look like. So anyway, that's the current situation of things, and I appreciate you bringing it up. In the want to be transparent with people. So thank you. This person says suddenly, I hope so. Lago, I think it's going to happen. Flip the switch. we got KJ again. He says, it's the same thing earlier. I already answered that one. Sorry about that. It kicks me up in the chat sometimes. We'll go ahead and grab a few over here on TikTok before we get back into the super chats. What do you think Ripple will do with the escrow? I think they're going to give it up. I think the U.S. government or the IMF or BlackRock ends up with the escrow and manages it moving forward. Do you answer questions personally in the mastermind? I do. Yeah. So if you want to message me once you're in the Discord, I won't message you. There are scammers out there that will message you. I will never message you. But if you message me, you can ask anything you want, and I get back to everybody every day. Within 24 hours, I answer all the questions everybody has for me. If you're in Carbon 2, you can schedule some time with me. So I don't think I've ever said that publicly, but you can. But anyway, yeah, I want to provide as much value as we possibly can there in the mastermind for people. Price before law. I hope so. Did BTC get a switch flipped? No, it definitely did not. I'm ready for XRP supply shock. Me and you both, Johnny. Still doing half off trusts. We do half off LLCs. And again, the code for that is 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC. There on the site gets you 50% off everything you need for a holding company to manage your digital assets and work with digital wealth partners. We got Dr. Denise. She says, when will DWP have HBAR custody? In Q2, early Q2, we will have HBAR custody. And will there be anyone in direct competition with DWP, business model anchorage, explain Ripple custody and products? Or I guess she's saying example, Ripple custody and products. Ripple kicked me off. We had our assets at standard custody and they kicked me off. Maybe it's because they're going to be in competition, but they don't have an IRA, an RIA license. They don't have a broker-dealer license. They don't have people that are licensed with the Series 65 to be able to provide financial advice. The segregated accounts that they do have at standard custody don't have a unified UI for an advisor to be able to have full purview over all of the client's accounts or to be able to manage SMAs. They don't have a way to do billing in a really good way or reporting or integrations to be able to provide returns on clients' assets or ways to be able to generate lines of credit against clients' assets. Like these are all things that we have built on our own. Nobody was doing it for XRP. We are it. And I'm proud of that. You know, like a lot of this is selfish. I hold what I think is a good amount of XRP, and I wanted to be able to put my XRP to work. I wanted to be able to borrow against it. I wanted to hold it in institutional custody and have my wife on the account as a co-signer and my son as a beneficiary, right? Like, because they don't know anything about digital assets. If something happened to me, like it's just gone. And I think a lot of people are in that position. So I wanted to create all these products and make sure that people had these options before price appreciation on this asset, because I believe that's going to happen. And I think people are going to be in a tizzy trying to figure out what to do and who to call and how do they do this stuff. And we've created a one-stop shop that provides all the solutions if you want it. I hope people have taken the time over the last 2 years to find the right professionals in their network to be able to help them when they have their liquidity event. I hope that they have. But if you haven't, we have. And we have all of that right in one spot where it's easy to work with people. We're working to make sure that we have enough staff to be able to scale when the appreciation happens. So on the HBAR, we'll be able to earn on XLM. We'll be able to earn on HBAR because our strategies are agnostic. You can put up any collateral It's not like a DeFi that's specific to that network. And that's the other cool thing. Like you could earn on your whole portfolio if you were diversified. And Anchorage is really working with us to cater to our needs, which is really cool. There is one other family office that provides similar services to us in the market. You have to have at least $100 million worth of Bitcoin to work with them. And they're at capacity. They have 15 clients, and that's all they're going to take. And they're good people. Matt McClintock and his team over there at Bespoke are good people, God-fearing people, religious, get along really well with them. And it's cool to see what they've built, but ours is scalable and it's used. We've positioned ourselves for a completely different market segment. They have nothing to do with XRP. They don't understand it. All of their stuff's curated toward Bitcoin. So anyway, we want to provide custody and returns and yield and ways to borrow against or lend or hold assets, inside insurance policies, all for utility-driven assets: XRP, XLM, HBAR, XDC, Algorand, Ondo, Axelar, Quant. Like all of those things are on our roadmap. And luckily, we've got XLM here in the next 6 days. We've got HBAR in early Q2, probably by the middle of May. We'll be able to custody HBAR, and then XDC will be in the latter half of Q2 there at Anchorage and with DWP to be able to earn returns and hold in custody. So thank you so much for the super chat and the question, Denise. God bless you. We've got G Chill. They say, will institutions buy XRP to back the ETFs before or after they approve for supply shock? You already seen it. You've already seen the volume on it to push it to the prices that it is. Retail didn't push it to 250 and hold it there. That's institutions buying it for the ETF using TWAP. So for those that don't know what TWAP is, it's time weighted average. So basically, let's say you wanted to move $100 million into XRP. If you did that all at one time, even over the OTC desk, like, that'll cause a problem. And you're going to have slippage and you're not going to get the best price. So what you do is you say, hey, I'm going to move 100 million in. I want you to move that in over the next month. So every couple hours, they're looking for the best price in the market across all the exchanges. and they have target prices where they buy on the dip. And they want to beat the weighted average over that period of time. So they're looking to get the lowest price averaged in over a period of time. And that's what's caused the consistent volume to hold XRP where it's at. These are institutions that are buying using that mechanism to be able to hold price stability where it is. But yeah, on the other side, when they approve the ETFs and we see inflows, that's when we're really going to see the magic and price is going to move substantially higher. Off of FOMO from retail, off of FOMO from institutions, off of FOMO from everyone all at one time, and I think a liquidity crisis to boot. Jeremiah, hey brother, he says, I'm puzzled. There are marginally wealthier countries that are already crypto friendly with regulations. Are institutions / banks around the world unable to buy XRP and send the price even a little higher? This is a coordinated effort, Jeremiah. If somebody gets too greedy, it's going to cause a problem. I think things have been negotiated where everybody knows their role. They know when this is going to happen. They've got their slice if they're cut in. 1,700 NDAs and pre-allocated contracts, pre-negotiated contracts. All the people that have been around and are players have already got a seat at the table, including international entities, HSBC, Deloitte, Citi, like large banks, SBI, a lot of the Indian banks. Like Ripple made rounds for years before there was ever the lawsuit. Like by 2017, 2018, they already had global adoption and had negotiated the majority of these contracts over the 5-year period since 2012 to 2017. So there's not a whole lot of XRP left to buy. And anybody that would be buying large amounts of it, I think already has negotiated a contract. So I think they're just waiting, and they know when price appreciation is going to happen, and they know how it's going to offset the debt on their books. and they don't want to mess that up. That's the other piece. If somebody got greedy or caused problems, you might not get the appreciation on XRP that you were hoping for, the adoption. And if I was Ripple, I would have let people know that. So I think that's why, like, you're seeing the algorithm work, you're seeing the price trade where it is, and when it's time, it'll be time, and they will all benefit from it. It's the same question. Like, people are like, why don't wealthy people buy it all up? Because they already got a bunch of money. They don't need XRP. They're not looking for 100x. Once you get your wealth, your job is to maintain it. Like, that's what a family office does. It is there to generate enough returns that you have a real return each year, and you're keeping up with the inflation, and you're maintaining your purchasing power, and you're getting a little bit ahead every year while mitigating as much risk as possible. Honest Aim, how are you, sir? He says, Jake, ETFs being approved will boost XRP's price. Yes. Will this acceptance by investors also help to start utilization, or are they independent functions? Thanks for all that you've built for us in the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Appreciate you, brother. I think it's both. Like I talked about earlier, I think you're going to need the ETFs to drive XRP's price with a supply shock to a higher level. And then once there's enough liquidity or price in XRP, it'll start being used to facilitate transactions at scale globally and be able to settle through XRP. And that's what will hold price stability at the higher levels for it to continue to escalate over time as more markets are moved on chain. So yeah, both. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. We got Donald, Mr. Junior. I like juniors. How long does the SEC have to deny or approve the XRP ETFs? If approved, when do you think they will go live? I think like first of April. I know they kicked the can to like May 21st with something that they did, but I think the CBE ETFs need to be approved by like April 2nd. So not that much longer. And again, with everything else that I think is going to transpire over the next couple of weeks, I think it could be go time. Rob, he says, is there any merit to the idea of Ripple buying Hedera? No. Well, no. Technically, could that address throughput concerns? Could Ripple afford it? IPO funded? Hedera is very valuable. Hedera has the council. Hedera has a lot of traction in the market. Mance and Leonard over there, we met them at Consensus this last year. They're getting, they have their stablecoin shop lab that you're able to mint on their network. They're tokenizing real world assets. They have the partnership with Swift, which I have a video that's going to come out that is going to explain all of that here in the next few days for people that are concerned that, HBAR is going to get Swift. No, it's going to be a combination of Chainlink, HBAR, and XRP. So calm down. You need all three because every one of them has gaps that the other one fills. But yeah, I mean, if they did go public and had a bunch of money, could they acquire Hedera? Sure, but to have interoperability between the two networks, you'd need Axelar. Axelar bridges that gap. They're interoperable with both of them. Chainlink also would allow for multi-chain interoperability, and that's the other reason that if you used both of those, you would need Chainlink with CCIP, which is cross-chain interoperability protocol, to work to be able to port that data from one to the other, and off-chain data on-chain into the smart contracts for Hedera to be able to facilitate those transactions, and then report back the on-chain data off-chain to be able to make sure that they've been finalized with the consensus mechanism on Hedera's blockchain. So I don't see that transpiring. Could it happen? Sure, but it's not something I think is on the roadmap. They're very focused on the XRPL, and I don't think that they would divert. Brad wrote the Peanut Butter Manifesto, right? Like, so if that's going to maintain truth for their business model, they're going to continue to focus on the XRPL and continue to build there. They're not going to divert their energy by buying Hedera and having to focus on Hashgraph also. A couple more super chats here. Steve, good evening, sir. He says, thank you. Love and gratitude for you and your excellent sharing. Long live Ripple and XRP. Love that, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hope you and your family have a blessed evening. We've got Textured Puma. They say, hey, Jake, I set up my LLC in December. Very good. I never got an email or a message about it, except initial emails from DWP. Should I expect anything from Wyoming? How do I pay the fees associated with it? So those are on an annual basis, and we'll take care of you, and we should send you a follow-up. If you didn't get anything, you can email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io and just name Jonathan in that email, and he'll be able to help you. I'm almost positive you did get follow-up emails from Digital Family Office, but they probably went to your spam because I get them, and I see them go out every day. So if you did set up an LLC with us, those emails were sent out because they're automated. But if you didn't get them, maybe check spam. And if you don't see them there, again, just email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io and name Jonathan in the email, and he will make sure that you get that information. Thank you for following up, though. I really do appreciate the super chat and you working with us. Excited to have you over at DWP and be able to earn some returns on your XRP in the very near future. Again, deploying those funds to be able to earn cash and if you wanted to earn more XRP, both of those go live April 1st. Typhoon with the super chat. All right, I'm going to look around here and see if I see your question because I don't want to miss it. If you're going to pay, I don't see it. Well, thank you for the super chat. If I missed your question, just post it down lower, and I will make sure that I answer it. Got Tori. How are you, sir? He says, hey, Jake, what are your thoughts on an umbrella policy to insure my home and LaFerrari? In theory, becoming my own insurance company. It would be your own insurance company. You'd be paying a third party to insure it with an umbrella policy. A lot of people get a $1 million or $5 million umbrella insurance policy. If it's on your home, you could insure your vehicle through your home or have vehicle and home insurance. An umbrella policy wouldn't really do that. If you set up a whole life insurance policy that you could borrow against to be able to pay off damages and stuff as the assets grew in that policy, that would be more like being your own insurance company. But the way that you structured it here, stated it, it would be very different. But yeah, you could get an umbrella policy on your home and have it extra coverage in case your Ferrari was in the garage when it caught fire and collapsed. Or you could just name the Ferrari or your other items inside the insurance policy, and they would add, extra coverages for those things at cost or replacement value. We've got super chat from C Joyce. They say, thank you for the super chat. Joined Carbon One. What? Still learning Discord. I know it's not my favorite platform either. It's a small learning curve, but we do appreciate you being there and the effort. If you have any questions on that, just email Mike@beyondbroke.com and Mike can help you out learning the Discord if you need it. Building my bag, but not large enough to be able to work with DWP yet. I prefer working with an advisor. Who would you recommend? Thanks for all you do. Happy to be here and work with you when things appreciate. There are no other crypto advisors. Don't exist. There are no other licensed Series 65 advisors that will talk to you or work with you on crypto. We're it, which is wild to me, but we are it. Unless you have at least 100 million in Bitcoin, which it didn't sound like you do. So in the Mastermind, you're going to get a lot of value there, a lot of guidance on things. Again, you can message me. If you want to join the Mastermind, you just go to beyondbroke.com and you can put in the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO, like month or Mary Oscar. That gets you a free month there in the group to try it out and see how you like it. So again, that's beyondbroke.com with code beyondbroke1MO, gets you a free month there in the group over here on TikTok. So anyway, yeah, just hang out. Your assets are going to appreciate. If you're invested in utility driven assets, you're going to have way more than enough to be able to work with us in the very near future. I can almost guarantee it. So excited for that time, excited to work with you when that happens. But until then, unfortunately, doesn't exist. We are it. Let's see here. Maurice. How do you feel about 6 aka Stronghold? Oh, it's probably SHX is what he wanted to type. Price prediction. I've got a video on it. If you want to go watch the video, I talk about it. A lot of people out there promising a lot of stuff on Stronghold. Is speculation on it great? Sure. Could it see some price appreciation? Absolutely. Could you make some money on it? For sure. Over the long term, there's no way that they're ever going to compete with Stripe or PayPal. And both of them will issue a very similar asset, I guarantee you, along with stablecoins. And they will take market share because they already have it. And here's the other thing about Stronghold. I called them. I want to work with them. I would like for them to process payments for me. I called them multiple times. I sent them multiple emails. They never got back to me. So their sales team sucks. Maybe we're not processing the amount of payments or volume. I mean, we're going to probably do $10 million this year or more in revenue and Stripe payments. So I would think that's enough to get enough attention from them, but maybe not. So anyway, I'm not overly bullish on them after that. It's kind of like XPR, right? Like there's other people that talk about Metallicus and all that. We met with their team. I talked to them. When I know more about your product than you do, and I try to get some assets to be tokenized on your chain, and you tell me you can't even come up with a couple $100,000 to be able to purchase the assets to tokenize them, lose a lot of faith. So anyway, not to talk bad about anybody or be down and out on it. You could make a lot of money on Stronghold. I think there will be speculation on it, but I don't think over the long term it's going to be the one. It's like the Napster of the payment space, and I think you're going to see Stripe and PayPal dominate with what they put out. Or maybe they get acquired. They could get acquired by Stripe or PayPal. And then, yeah, you would see crazy price appreciation. So that's the circumstance in which I could be way wrong. We got Jeremiah again. How are you, sir? He says, would it interrupt the Ripple's plan for its institutional adoption scaling to its potential if Google, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Tesla bought insane amounts before the bank scam? They already have their shares, bro. They already have their XRP, not shares. They probably have some shares in Ripple, but they also have XRP. If you'll go back, you might be able to find, there's a PowerPoint that R3 put out in 2018 that talks about the Internet of Value and all the companies that were already integrated and on the roadmap to be able to work with it. Everything you just mentioned there is on that page in the slides, including a lot of the companies I mentioned earlier, Android, McDonald's, tons of other fintech companies and payment providers, MasterCard, Visa, PayPal, Stripe, like all of them were on there. So they're part of those 1,700 NDAs and those pre-allocated contracts, and they've got their piece. I don't know that they're going to go onto the market and buy, especially when they have it at like 3/100 of a penny or whatever they negotiated with Ripple. Do you diversify between those three currencies or only XRP? I only own XRP. And that's not financial advice. That's just my personal deal. I take it with a grain of salt. I have biases. I've had a lot of conversations. I've talked to those other companies as well. You know, again, we've talked to Mance, and they're here in Dallas with me. XLM. I haven't had as many conversations with XLM. XDC, I've been to their office in Dubai. I know Atul and Ritesh. We're getting them integrated with Anchorage, direct conversations with them over email. I know all those guys. I still only own XRP. So again, not financial advice, but if that tells you anything, it's up to you. Hey, Hans Morris. I like your name, Hans. Can you gift XRP tax exempt in kind up to $1,900? You sure can. You sure can, Hans. If you want to gift your kids some XRP in kind up to the allotted annual limit, you are more than welcome to do so. I would just send that over to a separate wallet and have that transaction up to that amount on that day so that it's shown on the ledger. So great way to do it and get the tax write-off. You file a 709 for that at the end of the year, by the way. He asked again. He said, if the XRP has not appreciated significantly for either party, would it still be a taxable event by creating a partnership LLC? It wouldn't be a taxable event if it was the same price that you purchased it. However, it would reset the basis. So let's say you bought it in 2017 or 2018 at similar price to what it is today, and you held it the whole time, and then you put it in a limited partnership between you and the counterparty. You're going to miss out on all those potential capital gains and the long-term capital gains that you would get if you had held it. Now, if you bought it the other day and you and somebody else both bought it the other day and you wanted to set up a partnership, you could. You're going to still be short-term capital gains. Just know that whatever the difference is on the day that you fund that partnership, you're going to have you will owe taxes on that, and it does reset your basis and time frame that you held it. But beyond that, you're fine. Maurice. Wow. Let's see here. We got Shade Spot. They say, if you and your lovely T, making wife, had a spare $10,000 today, would you likely deploy it into XRP today, or would you set a buy limit or a bit lower, maybe sub $2, as you anticipate volatility? I'd buy it today. I bought it today. I bought that much today. Just saying. I would rather be in. I don't know that we're going to get a drop. I'd rather have it and not be worried about that, or have regret that I could have gotten more. Or like, here's the other thing: like, people want to save pennies or get a little bit more, get a couple hundred more, a couple thousand more maybe. If it wouldn't be 1,000 more at this point, you might get a couple hundred more if the price dropped that much for 10K. You're not going to care. You're going to be a lot happier if you had the 3,000 XRP that's going to buy, or the 4,000 XRP that's going to buy in your pocket if the price goes. Because on the other side of it, if you waited and you didn't get that, I mean, that's going to be a lot of money in the future, like a lot of money. Imagine, buying Bitcoin, like same situation with Bitcoin in 2011. Are you going to care about a couple hundred Bitcoin, or are you going to be happier that you got the Bitcoin when it appreciates to $100,000 a piece? Probably going to be happier that you got the Bitcoin. So for me, I would rather just be in. I'll ride the volatility. I'll continue to dollar cost average. But that's my opinion, not financial advice. Again, you asked what I would do, so that's what I'm giving it to you. So you do you, make your own decisions. Neither one of those is wrong, but that's how I would play it. Thanks for the LLC. Awesome, brother. Glad to have you have that set up with us. How can I use it to get XRP Vegas? Well, you can write off XRP Vegas. So any expenses that you have to go to Vegas and attend that conference, the hotel, the plane ride, the food while you're there, any entertainment that you have when you're having business discussions, all of those would be write-offs for attending that event, because you're learning about your investment. I got a couple more questions, and we're going to wrap it up here tonight. Already at the hour and a half mark. How do you feel about XCN? I had a client that I talked to today that had a bunch of XCN that wrote it up and then back down. I don't know. I don't know if it's the actual Onyx token or not. I can't figure it out. I've looked online. There's a lot of conflicting evidence in both directions. If it is, it's going to be great. Like JP Morgan's token and like the settlement mechanism through Onyx, I think that's going to be awesome. But if it's just somebody that put it out there as like a meme or a catfish, I don't know where it's going to go. Is it worth the risk on something? Again, none of this other stuff's worth the risk to me. Like, I would just rather keep buying the thing that I know is going to be worth a lot of money. Again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. If you want financial advice, you can work with Digital Wealth Partners, and they can tell you to buy XRP because they're licensed to do so. I can't do that. We got Surrender to Win. They say, hi, Jake. What percentage of your conviction is research versus discussions with insiders? Wink, wink. Thanks. I don't know, probably 37, 30% research, 70% conviction from discussions with insiders. If I had to put like a ratio or percentages on it. Dr. Denise again. Hey, ma'am. She says, awesome. Thank you for all of the devotion and team DWP. AJ was fantastic. We'll call soon. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Look forward to working with you, ma'am. And thank you so much for the super chat. 1111. I love it. Make a wish. Couple more super chats here. We got Noah. They say, what's your specials on what's your specials? Maybe speculation on price glitches. Do you thinking that these are glitches or test transactions? There's been some weird ones. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when Coinbase glitched and like everything was crazy high price and XRP was like $21 million or something crazy. That one was weird. That one's kind of off to me. These other ones that you see on like Bitstamp or some other stuff, maybe they're a test transaction or like a glitch, but there's not any other tokens that have like crazy glitches like that. So there's something to it. I don't know what it is. I don't know enough. I don't have enough insider information to tell you on that one. I think there's something to it, but I don't know what it is. But I appreciate you asking because I'm sure there's other people that have that same question. I wish I had a better answer for you. But again, that Coinbase one, like that was super weird. How high can XRP get this year? I took my accountant to Spearmint Rhino, so yes. Our strip clubs in Vegas write-offs. I took my accountant. You guys are wild, man. Not everything is a write-off. Just so everybody's aware, like, can't just write everything off for no reason. It does need to be business related. Taking your accountant, I mean, if your accountant's cool with it, sure. Hopefully he's your CPA also. How high can XRP get this year? Depends on Catalyst. It depends on what adoption we get. Depends on which networks and things move over. I know that's like a cop out, right? But that's the honest truth. Like, it really just depends on global Catalyst and how things work. I think based on the things that I'm seeing in macroeconomics and how things are playing out here in the US, low 4 digits is pretty reasonable here in 2025. Next one here, we got Flavio Santos. I butchered that. I'm sorry, man. But I do appreciate the super chat and your question. He says, does XRP or does SBI Holdings own about 10% of Ripple? Yes, they do, and R3. If so, can SBI benefit from Ripple IPO and XRP adoption? Hell yeah. Yoshitaka Kitao is all about XRP and Ripple and the adoption and the price appreciation on both the shares of Ripple and XRP. So yes, absolutely. They have a very vested interest in its success. We got Jeremiah again with super chat. He says, what role did the game Oregon Trail play in the development of your sharp critical thinking skills? Didn't play it growing up. Played Go to Texas a lot and Monopoly, but I did not play the Oregon Trail growing up. My wife did. She's a bit older than me. Good question. I'll touch on this though. If you have children, there is a game that I think is really beneficial for children. I'd have to look it up here. If you look up Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki board game, the cash flow board game. It's expensive, but it really does teach you what assets and liabilities are at a young age. And I would highly recommend that if that's something. I don't have like a link or anything for it. Met Robert one time at the Super Bowl a few years ago in Phoenix. I have a lot of respect for the man, even though he is a Bitcoin maxi. Think he's extremely intelligent. He's done very well over his lifetime, and him and his wife put together that game, the cash flow board game. And I do think it's really good for children to play to understand assets and liabilities and how to create cash flow and what statements look like to be able to operate in the real world. So recommend that. Anthony McGrath, the Wrath McGrath. He says it's 3 a.m. in the UK. Bro, why are you up right now? Thank you so much. We chatted one-on-one last year, joined Social Mastermind, can't afford much more. Bro, we're all cash poor. I completely understand. Hopefully a tenner will still buy a beer. We'll DM soon. 46 gram dumbbell press for 9 reps last week. Yes, sir. That's awesome. So 2.2 is the conversion between kilograms and pounds. So let's do the math here. For Anthony, we got 2.2 times 96. We got about 212 pounds for 9. Getting on up there, man. You'll be doing 225 here soon, 150 kilograms, which would be good to see. So love to work out with you if you ever get here to the U.S. We got 888 people watching over here on YouTube, which is awesome. Wealth number, if you guys know about any of that stuff. A couple more super chats, and then we really are going to wrap it up here. We got Connor Martin. He says, does ETF inflow guarantee price increases? Well, yes. We've seen it with Bitcoin, with ETH, with Sol. Like Sol's about to launch also. There's been a bunch of those ETFs filed here recently, the S ones. So yes, it definitely does. The other correlation and like proof of this that I could share with you would be when the iShares Trust was filed in Delaware in November of 2023 for BlackRock. We saw XRP decouple from the rest of the market and double in value in about 15 minutes before they came out and said it was fake. So just on that news alone, we saw XRP double in price and decouple from the rest of the market. So as soon as we see BlackRock throw their hat in the ring for the ETF and we get the approval, sky's the limit, man. And that is the mechanism by which they're going to drive liquidity into this deal. I don't care what anybody says. All right, a couple more here on TikTok, and then we will shut it down tonight. Mandy, thank you, ma'am. I know a few things. I know the way I explain this is I feel like I'm an Indian outside the teepee of the chiefs, and the chiefs every once in a while come out and talk to me, and they say things, and they're never direct. But I've talked to enough of the chiefs and the wisdom people that come out of the teepee and the medicine men that I've been able to put things together that each one said and be like, okay, I have a better idea of the full picture here. Let's see here. Low 4 digits, any decimals? I can't call it an exact price of this stuff. It would be great if I could. I wish I had a crystal ball for that. This person says tomorrow. Shoot, there's a lot of things that are kind of lining up for tomorrow. We'll see if we get that or not. Mastermind info, last one. Emerging is lagging, or post in chat. Thank you. Yeah, would love to have you guys again, kind of wrap up here in the mastermind. So if you would like that, you can just go to the website beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalize with the number 1 and then MO. Get you a free month there in the group, either Carbon One or in the social membership. And then if you do need an LLC for your digital assets, you'd like to set up a holding company to be able to mitigate taxes and make sure you're set up for success. If you've got more than like $50,000 to $80,000 invested in digital assets, if you have less than that, just keep buying digital assets. Don't set up the LLC. It's not quite worth it yet. But if you're north of that, time to get things in gear and set yourself up for success. The code on digitalfamilyoffice.io for $1,500, everything you need for the LLC is 50 off 50OFF DAG LLC. Get you EIN, articles of organization, registered agent, certificate of good standing, BOIR if you need it, but I don't think you will. Template for the operating agreement, SOP on how to move your assets in there, and a video on how to set up a bank account to be able to make sure you can take profits and not get flagged on the other side of price appreciation. Here is the code here on YouTube for people that are looking on this side, and X for the mastermind if you'd like to be in there. And then last but not least, if you do want to participate in the funds and earn returns on your XRP, all you got to do is reach out to digitalwealthpartners.net. You do need at least 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 invested in digital assets to be a client over there. And we would love to work with you if that's something you're interested in. The funds go live April 1st and start earning returns on people's XRP. And again, structured this in a way that I'm super proud of. We've mitigated as much risk as we possibly can on a risk curve of 1 to 10, 1 being no risk, 10 being all the risk in the world. We're around 1.5 to 2% or 2. So there is some risk for returns. Returns are likely going to be somewhere between 12 and 20% based on historical averages of these the sub advisors we're partnered with. And again, if you'd like to learn more, just reach out to digitalwealthpartners.net, or you can go to the website and use the contact us form right there on the site. How can we ask you a question through the mastermind? If you join the mastermind, you can DM me directly, and I will answer your question within 24 hours. Or you just email info@digitalfamilyoffice.io. But yeah, if you're in the mastermind group, you can DM me and I will answer you, or you can ask it on the town hall. And I get to every single question on the town hall every single week. So on Saturdays and Mondays. So would love to have you guys in there if that's something you're interested in. Again, Beyond Broke 1 MO gets you a free month there in the group if you want to check it out. Cheese and crackers, 12 to 20%. Hey, look, man, I wouldn't believe it either. Like, I'm pretty skeptical of anything that's north of 10%. But that's where their track records are, like for the past 5 years. And I'm being conservative with what I think they're actually going to produce with the 12 to 20%. So anyway, if it interests you and you would like to learn more about that and do the due diligence, please do your own due diligence on this stuff. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable. And so ask all the questions. We provide all that information. Again, that's digitalwealthpartners.net. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. It was great hanging out with you guys on a Wednesday night. We will be back next Monday with the live, unless we see you guys in the mastermind on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central for the town hall there. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful week. God bless, and we will see y'all on the next one.